Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Helena.
Helena, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for presenting this to us. Thank you for bringing so many of you. It is really wonderful to see, as John said, the Mayor said, start the meeting, the average age in this room lower than perhaps it's ever been in recent history. So really appreciate that. And yes, thank you for coming and presenting us with this petition. It's I think we note your petition, we note your costings. We are looking at budget setting at the moment, so it will be looked at through that lens. We are also just starting up conversations around a SIL working group. I think the first meeting around that was today to decide the mechanism by which we use our pot of SIL money. So I think this is a good example of a project which perhaps should be considered by that group and or as an output of that at this point in time. So thank you very much for coming. And yeah, thank you for your petition. And yeah, we will work with you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. But before you go, I know there are a couple of people that specifically wanted to make a comment. I'm not going to invite this open to everybody to discuss because we've given us some very detailed information, but I believe Councillor Hocking, you wanted to make a comment.
Chair, thank you. Yes, this has been on ex-Councillor Broom's radar. Where's she gone? For quite a long time, so we sort of knew this was coming. First of all, expectation management. City council's budgets under pressure everywhere. Yeah, utilities, all the other stuff that's going on. So we're not going to be able to do this today. Okay, but first of all, no community group has ever come to this council with such a detailed proposal that have been so well thought through. Yeah, a decent presentation that's been put together. So there is an awful lot of hard work that has gone into this, and I'm going to be the last person that tries to shoot you guys down in flames. I think you've done an amazing job. You've been somewhere else, you've looked at funding for it, you've looked at options, you've looked at places. As for one of my colleagues next to me said, do you know what, we could fund this out of the green energy tariff that Wiltshire Council pays just to have green electricity with no problem at all. So I do like the idea, and I think rather than just go, yeah, nice to have, I think we should put this to our communities committee. They can take what's in the presentation that you've just put before us, and they can put some numbers to it, and then we can see how the costs stack up with what you think. And so that's one of your two, yeah. And then we can have someone can put some cost to this. We can look at locations. I know Churchill Garden's quite a good one because we had a bit of a Lido there years and years and years ago. Unfortunately, it fills up with water every winter, so there'll be a little bit of work to do there. So I'd like to see this go to communities. And again, expectation management. We can't do this year. We can't do it next year, I wouldn't have thought. But once we've got finances back on the straight and narrow, then I think it's something that we could look at. But in the interim, I'd like to take this to communities just so that officers can look at it in a little bit of detail and give us some numbers that might back up what we've been presented with today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hocking. And very briefly, Councillor Rimmer.
Councillor Hocking said everything I was going to say, so I won't bother.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may, I think this would be an ideal project for the as yet undefined SIL process to consider. I think the working group, Councillor Hocking, is deciding where that might sit in terms of the governance. Should that be committees? Should that be another? Should that be full council? But I think just to be explicit, I think it would be a project that this new SIL process should consider. It seems to be an ideal candidate for that.
So if I may come back, Chair, I'd just like, we've talked about multiple funding options, and what I would be looking for is to explore those funding options rather than just take it to SIL. I'd like some officer input into other potential forms of funding, if that's possible.
If I may, Chair, I absolutely agree. I think there is a lot of due diligence that we need to do to make sure that those pots of money are still available, that we are able to access those pots of money. So a huge amount of work. It's not simply that there would be no working up for any project as part of that.
Joe, did you want to say something?
progress in the discussions and that we might be a part of those discussions and any plans moving forward, please?
I think I'd be correct in saying if it's taken forward to the consideration of the committees that Councillor Hawkins referred to, we'll be able to update you from that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And,
Thanks for your support in the room tonight.
If I'm not suggesting that you have to leave, but if you would like to depart having discussed this item, feel free to do so now. Yeah, I didn't want to sort of, they've spent so much time preparing it.
There's no reason if you want to call Chris.
Yeah.
Just ask the speakers to come forward.
Chris, would you like to come forward, please? Okay. Okay. Can I ask that for this item, we limit to 10 minutes. It's an update of something which is important, but obviously a very long agenda. So Asa is going to put the stopwatch on and we'll have to stick to 10 minutes, if you don't mind. Thank you.
That's okay. I planned for 5, so let's go for 7.5. Thank you very much, Salisbury City Council. This is not the first time I have been in court, but it is the first time I'm the defendant. So we'll move on. Just to take you back, it's been a year now since you very kindly allocated £50,000 of SIL money that we've just been talking about towards the purchase of the land formerly known as Fitzgerald Farm to form Broken Bridges Nature Reserve. So this is a very quick update. Next slide, please. So, achievements to date. You will recall that we were actually a community interest company back in November when we asked for money, but we had ambitions to become a charity. We achieved that on the 15th of May. We are now a charitable incorporated organisation. And I'm sure if you look at the website, you'll get the charity number and you can do all your due diligence should you wish to. The second thing, the great thing is, we have successfully purchased the 34 acres of land and we completed on the 27th of June. And I have to say a fantastic thanks to Ray Martin and Sue Coombs of Bat Broadbent, who supported us through that process. I can't remember exactly how much money it was, but it was about £215,000. Yeah, £215,000. So your contribution was a significant part in us achieving that. The first priority for us was tree care. You will all be very aware of the public footpath that runs through and the byway. It hadn't been looked after for many years. So the first thing we did was we had to treat approximately 50 trees that were identified of immediate risk to the public. And again, thanks to Paul Thompson and the team from Bowden Tree Care who undertook that work on our behalf. We've also been working with the Rights of Way and Countryside team at Wiltshire Council, and although it's not our land, we have a right of access down Gypsy Lane, which runs parallel to the public footpath, and they very kindly cleared that through, so we had vehicle access in order that we could carry out mowing and fencing because we need vehicle access. At the moment, we've only done that up as far as Spring Bridge, but we're already in discussions about extending that to the end of the byway. Mowing. Ideally, we wanted to mow and remove the silage in bales. Unfortunately, that couldn't take place. We tried with a heavy horse. I'm sure you may have seen some of that in the papers. Unfortunately, the machinery broke because it was so tough. And also, unfortunately, one of the horses took ill. It has recovered. Thankfully, we then contracted your own grounds team. So putting money back into the council, and they did a fantastic job, and all of the meadows are now mown. The big debate was how do we remove the silage, etc. And I'll come on to the advisory group we have, but the decision was made that actually we would only go in and localise the clearing of the silage around areas where we knew there were rare plants. But again, a great thanks to the team from the grounds team, particularly Fletch. We call him Fletch the tractor, and it's a really nice story because he's a young man who grew up using those meadows from childhood. So he really enjoyed it and put his heart and soul into a very difficult task. Some of you who have walked around there, you will have seen that we've got notice boards up. And liaised with the men's shed. They've done a fantastic job. I'm sure you'll agree when you walk around there. So thanks to John Page and Ron Gothard and the whole team. The second board, the northern board, went up. I think it was last week. I think it was Thursday. In fact, I dug some of the holes. So well done me. So the notice boards are up. We have formed a conservation advisory group led by David and Pam. At the moment, we've got about 10 advisors. They're real experts. They come from a broad range of places: Natural England, RSPB, Wiltshire Botanical Society, Wiltshire Butterfly Conservation, and we are being approached by others to join. So we have access to a wealth of expertise, and they've already been extremely helpful. Their first meeting, they undertook a site visit, discussed the SSI site, invasive species, the rare Carr woodland that we have, the floodplain meadows, and the baseline data and monitoring. The last thing on achievements so far, and Anne is here, she's the hero of the day. We have continued to be very successful with fundraising without coming back to the council. I know that was a concern last November. We haven't had to come back. We've been very successful, particularly on things like the fencing, the tree work that we talked about, and we've succeeded in, or Anne has succeeded in securing funding for us to have a part-time ranger service, which more of in a second. That's not to say we don't need more money and we're not out hunting for it. This huge, we just realised what a huge task we've got there. It really is, it's massive. That place has been left for decades. So there's a whole load of fencing that we need to do. And of course, the main thing for us at the moment is the footpath. And I'll come on to that in a second. Next slide. So to help people reference areas and make better sense of it, you will see copies of the map on the website. You will see copies of this map up on the two notice boards. So if you have any questions or any concerns, please refer to that. And then we all know what we're talking about. Because quite frankly, between the five of us, on occasions, I got a bit lost. So we've put that together and it seems to be working very well. So next slide, please. Looking forward, the East Meadow, which is the bit between Broken Bridges and Churchfields, or the Nadder and Churchfields, the fencing for that should be complete by the end of November. The contractor that we've
Can I just say you have about 3 minutes of your 10 remaining?
Okay, great, thanks. We're also in the process of forming a community advisory group to advise on how to maximise public benefit without compromising the conservation objectives. The public footpath, and while it is Wiltshire Council's legal responsibility, we made a public commitment to do everything we can to improve that footpath, particularly for access for disabilities. So we are working, we're forming a team, we've already engaged with Wiltshire Council, and we will drive that forward, rest assured. Ranger service I mentioned. We are, and this is where you can help us, please, get the message out. We are looking for a ranger. We're not trying to employ a person as an employee, but we do want a ranger service, whether that's an individual or a company. It's a number of hours per month, and it will make a huge difference on the conservation and the engagement of the public. And we've already got the funding ready for that. We're also running a What's Next event on the 17th of June at St. John's in January, in Bemerton, where we'll get the volunteers and the sponsors there. We'll give them an update. Conservation management plan is critical to this. David's leading on that. He's creating a habitat inventory, which will set the priorities on what we'll do. And of course, we'll keep the communications going. There's a community engagement plan, which will come out of that What's Next program. We're already talking to some very artistic people, poetry, performances, etc., that we might hold there. The key thing for us at the moment is fencing and grazing. It's our top conservation priority to reintroduce grazing to the western and southern meadows. But this will need a short and long-term decision on fencing and close working with our neighbours, which we have already started on.
Thank you. Just under your 10 minutes. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. And I think we've got time just for a few comments or questions from councillors.
Can I have 2 minutes just about funding? It really
I think
is
so.
2 minutes.
Yes.
Can I just
Yeah.
think, Mike? I just wanted to say that on funding, this project has been an absolute joy because it brings together a whole series of ticks for what we can do. Because what we are doing with this project is addressing a very neglected piece of land and environment that badly needs developing and restoring, and its biodiversity restoring. But we're also heavily involved in an activities program that will bring in access to nature for well-being. So we are addressing the big issues of mental health support through giving people access to that, both by volunteering and by workshops. All sorts of opportunities are going to be happening there. And the third big tick is community engagement. The public of Salisbury love this project. They have contributed massively to the purchase of the land. They are contributing to the volunteering, and it is a wonderful project to be involved in. So as a fundraiser, I've got it easy, really. But we're carrying on working hard because the scale of what we need to do is very considerable. But we're not here with the hat out today. We're actually getting on with the job. And I think my very last point is that we're working heavily in partnership. In partnership, we hope, with Wiltshire and the Rights of Way officer and the teams there. And I'm sure the cabinet portfolio holder for the environment will be of support to us if we could only locate him. But no, it's a wonderful project in terms of partnership with people and organisations. And so watch this space about funding, but we're working hard.
Thank you very much. And it's quite clear that the enthusiasm and energy hasn't diminished having secured the funding. It's going to be sustained over a period of time. Councillor Hocking.
Yeah, thank you. Very briefly, Chris, thank you very much for your proposal, your presentation. All good stuff. Sounds like you're having loads of fun running around in the weeds, actually. So fair play to you. Chris, could you just expand briefly on the role of the ranger? What's the JD?
There are two component parts to it. One is, of course, the priority. We haven't got fixed priorities, but the advisory group's working on that and depend on the reaction.
That's the conservation side.
So there's the conservation side, which is a key component. But the other component is the community side, and activating the volunteers, the volunteers, organising those events that people process of designing those events will start on the 2nd of January. So it's a combination of those two components. Someone with some conservation experience, if they've got some skill sets, that's fantastic, such as using a chainsaw. So, for example, although we dealt with and managed 50 odd trees, when we had those high winds the other week, one of the smaller trees that had been exposed to blow over, and we had to call on the neighbour to come in and do that. They were very kind to do that. But that's the sort of thing that
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Charleston, I believe you wanted to come with something.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you both for coming and presenting this to us. No question from me, just very quick. I want to say thank you for coming and giving us the update. I think often we support these things and they go off into the world and do their wonderful things, and it's nice to have someone come and actually tell us how successful it's going. So I really appreciate you taking the time this evening, and for all the work you do to make sure this wonderful green lung for our city is in the state it deserves to be. So thank you for everything you do.
Okay, we have one final word from Councillor Sample.
Yes, Chair, with respect, I can't let the challenge that was put down go. I'm very happy to talk to the others at Cabinet about the requirement for assistance for the path. I just wondered, out of interest, with a sort of my biodiversity hat on, I suppose, that people who are responsible for land management, as I guess you guys are, can earn money from biodiversity projects, mainly by selling nature credits or units to developers as part of the planning process. And especially now that the biodiversity net gain, or BNG, is mandatory in England for most developments. Is this something which you as a group have considered, and what response have you had, and is there anything which we at Wiltshire Council can do in order to assist with that?
Can I come back on that? We are looking very closely at those, because there's a number of sources. We have flood management issues, we have obviously the issues you referred to, and we're very much hoping that once we've opened our dialogue over the footpath, we will move on to talking to these wider issues with the council officers, and we will still know which will get involved.
We are very fortunate in that we have a highly experienced professional management consultant. So clearly looking at all of these issues very closely with the advisory groups just come together, because of course we need to work out where we're going to put our best bang for the buck. But absolutely we'd love to engage with groups and I know recently, I don't know if you saw those up there, but actually Alex Hudson has arranged it. But the main thing here was for us to come and say, you've put a lot of money into this, and we're very grateful. We could not have done it without you, and I hope that we're now delivering these phase practice.
Thank you. And I'm sure this dialogue will need to continue over time, and we'll hear further updates. Councillor Riddle.
Sorry, Chairman, I'd just like to make it clear that when my husband's name is mentioned here, he's doing this in a voluntary capacity. The word consultant was used, and I wouldn't want anyone to think that there was any money changing hands in this process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Item 15, Market Toilets Working Group update.
Sorry, Chair, asset transfer
I
update,
beg your
number
pardon,
15. Not a problem at all. It's still Mr. Reid in the chair.
Hello, councillors. A different view. So, yes, where are we with the asset transfer? Wiltshire Council officers have prepared a draft list of assets that they are willing to transfer to the City Council, subject to their own cabinet approval. It's worth noting that these proposed assets, some of which we already look after. So I will just run through which assets they are, and this also speaks to the point, I think, Councillor Taylor's question. So there's the Central Car Park Public Convenience. That's being offered up as a freehold. Millstream Approach Coach Park Conveniences. So that's one that we currently look after and have a long lease on, but again, they are looking to offer that one as a freehold. The Friary Community Centre, that one is we already look after, and again, they're offering that one up. Macklin Road Play Area is another freehold that they're looking to offer us. That one again is one that we already look after. There's the Gainsborough Close Sports Court or Mugger. That one it was something that we were looking after, but it's currently going through a bit of a transformation. Wiltshire Council had some funding there for it to be turned into a play zone, I think is the correct phrase. So there'll be some consideration there about taking that on. And then the final one is the St Edmunds Art Centre. So again, they're looking to offer the freehold. What I would say that is each asset, whilst offering potential benefits for Salisbury's communities, councillors should carefully consider financial implications and ongoing obligations that would come with each of those transfers. At a forthcoming committee meeting, probably January or March, I will be able to bring a more detailed business case following conversations with Wiltshire Council officers. None of these don't all have to be discussed all at once. So I know Councillor Taylor is keen for the Central Car Park Public Conveniences to be brought back into the City Council's ownership and part of our asset portfolio. That was previously agreed in principle at a previous council meeting. That one can be expedited with assistance from Wiltshire Council's officers, if that's what council would like us to do. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Asa, did you want to come in on this?
Yes, just to apologise to Councillor Taylor, you have submitted a question on this item. If you're happy, Councillor, I can read it out and then ask, you can have any follow-ups that you'd want. Is that okay? Or
I'm happy to ask it now, if that's okay.
Happy to do so. And apologies, we should have taken that first.
No,
My fault.
Apologies not necessary. It's been a busy day for all of us. And obviously this question slightly overtaken by what Mark Reid has explained to us. However, my anxiety, having spent quite a lot of time investigating the challenges of the Central Car Park toilets, it's fair to say, I was slightly anxious that given that list of buildings that I didn't want the Central Car Park toilet transfer to get lost in the noise. So I'll read my question and then you can respond. Thank you very much. At the full council meeting held 2 months ago, it was agreed by councillors unanimously that the Central Car Park building should be reacquired from Wiltshire Council and reopened. Given my understanding that Wiltshire Council was happy to accommodate this transfer and that the building is in good condition, could we have an explanation as to why the building has not yet been acquired and reopened? And can we have confirmation that officers are using their best endeavours to reopen these toilets without further delay? Thank you.
So I think there's two parts to that question. One is the legal part, which is the transfer across, and we are dependent on working with Wiltshire Council officers to make that happen, but that is in process. The second part, which is the reopening, I'm afraid that's over to you guys in terms of making budget provision available to be able to do so.
Councillor Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly on the broader point, I think, as I've said previously, this is good to hear the list, good to hear the items that Wiltshire wants to, I'm not going to use the word offload, but offload onto us. I think more or less content, pending full details, where anything, Macklin Road Play Park, for example, if it's looking like that's something we look after anyway, it looks like it's not going to cost us any extra money. I feel like I'm broadly in support of that. Something like the Arts Centre feels like you may need to get a better understanding of what the liability looks like. And as I have expressed privately, I'm very happy in theory to have a conversation about taking on something like the Arts Centre if they want to also transfer over a load of their car parks and associated income to us as well. So if we can bring those into the table, let's have that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawke.
Thank you, Chairman. Mark, I just wanted to clarify one thing. Those assets, for instance, offered to us freehold. So is it one of those things that we have to take, or they will look elsewhere to sell their asset, or is it just going to be one of those things we can make a decision whenever we want?
Yeah, so it's just about making a decision. I don't think there's any indication that Wiltshire Council were looking to offload them anywhere else. I think this was a direct question from our administration to theirs. I think including Councillor Taylor as well in the conversation in the meeting about, whilst we were there talking about the central toilets, it was a question of, is there anything else that Wiltshire Council would consider putting into the hands of the City Council? And that's where this list has come from.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers.
This is going to hurt a little bit, Chair. It is time to give credit where credit's due. Councillor Ian Thorne, leader of Wiltshire Council, Minority Administration. It was yours and my wish list that these toilets are transferred as condition of our support. So I need to say thank you for delivering on that.
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, John. As we discovered in the last administration, it's rather frustrating when our city council's budgets go to fund something that essentially isn't ours, which is why we got to the position we were with the toilets. So it would be good to have it under our ownership. And as far as the Arts Centre, we always need another venue, music venue and everything else, which could actually increase our income as a city. So that again would be a positive. My only concern would be with our budgets currently, if we take on those assets, what impact is it going to have? I suppose that's a question for our lovely Steve.
Thank you. Councillor Suddards.
Hi, thank you. Two hopefully short questions. I didn't hear it, but I may have missed it. Are Wiltshire Council open to negotiating any finance that comes along with these assets, or is it purely an asset transfer only discussion?
So there has been no offer of any finance. I believe it was this administration at the City Council who prompted Wiltshire Council into the conversation about asset transfer and not the other way around. So at this stage, there has not been any.
And have we asked the question?
No.
Are we going to ask the question?
That's up to the administration.
Okay. Thank you. And then is it going, or which working group is it going to be, discussed wider on, as opposed to just bringing it to full council, or is the intent just to bring it to full council?
So at this stage, unless I am told otherwise, a paper will be brought to full council.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bolwell.
Thank you, Chair. I just thought I'd update you where the mugger is in Gainsborough Close. It's in our ward. It's having a facelift after all these years. It's not just money from Wiltshire Council's Community Conversations budget. It's also had funding from the Football Association as well. So the idea is it's being expanded. It will have seating area around it. And the idea being that schools will be able to hire it, which means I've had residents say, oh, do our kids have to pay? No, because your kids would be at school. So it's during the day, it will be opened out and will be helped to generate an income. That is the plan.
Thank you. Just out of interest, how did the income from the Football Association become available?
Because for those of us that are on the
community panel conversations. Conversation was had from Wiltshire to the football because it's a sports facility. They do have football down there of an evening. There is a local group that meets there every Tuesday in the winter. The rest of the year, it's normally up on the field. But because of their involvement, we were able to ask, is there any funding that you could match this? Because obviously this was going to be a huge chunk out of the community conversations budget. And we were a bit uneasy about that, weren't we? So the fact that we've had support from the Football Association is brilliant, and work has started this week. Walls are being knocked down as we speak. I know that because I only live 5 minutes away.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Dalton.
Chair, thank you. I'm going to stand because I haven't had a meeting in this room for probably Ricky and Paul for the past 26 years or whatever it is. But we had to stand in those days so everybody could see who the hell was speaking. You can't see if you're just sat down. I was just going to echo really what Ricky said. I mean, it's not just one person in the background battling to try and get the central car park toilets open, because Paul and I have had those discussions on May the 1st this year. Some of us made that conversation back at budget in January, and I class myself in that, like not speaking in support of keeping the toilets both here in the Market Square, which Chris, your party wanted to close anyway, to keep those open and not close them. But on the asset transfer, my ears pricked up when the art centre was mentioned. As much as I love the art centre and campaigned for the City Hall to be transferred back in 2008 to the City Council, it would never have closed, would it, if it did transfer? But whether the art centre is, is that a bottomless pit today? I don't know, because I don't know any of the finance side of it, as was raised just a few moments ago behind me. And I'd like to know a lot of detail on that before the City Council even thinks about taking on the art centre. So, a paper before tonight would have probably stopped my ears pricking up. But there are members, should I say, campaigning on various things in the background, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I think probably we're in agreement that we have to be very cautious with asset transfer long term, which is, I think we're all fully aware of that. But thank you. Right. So do we move on to the market toilets working update?
Me again. And my dear friend here, Matthew Hine, who has also been working with me on this along with the working group. Many of are sat in the seats here this evening. So I'm here presenting the recommendations of the Market Square Toilet Working Group, or on behalf of the Market Square Toilet Working Group, for the short-term reopening and medium-term refurbishment of the public toilets in Salisbury Market Square. So these proposals follow strong feedback from residents and from local businesses who have been clear that reliable, safe, accessible public toilets in our city centre are essential for dignity, for public health, and for supporting the nighttime economy. So the working group, just as a reminder, was tasked to develop proposals that provide good value for taxpayers, respect the aesthetic and heritage of the square, design out antisocial behaviour, ensure accessibility for all users, use robust and durable infrastructure, and maintain public confidence through transparent communication. Now, all of the recommendations have been shaped with these core requirements firmly in mind. So the working group, I think it's safe to say, would like to recognise the significant cross-party collaboration throughout this process, demonstrating a shared understanding of the importance of the issue to Salisbury's reputation and economic viability. So the short-term reopening recommendations, the working group proposes the following phased approach, and that is to immediately reopen the underground nighttime toilets for use on Thursdays, Fridays and Saturday evenings, operating without an attendant. This mirrors previous practice while responding to concerns around antisocial behaviour and pressures on the nighttime economy. From January 2026, or as soon as practically possible, reopen the underground toilets during the daytime on market days, that's Tuesday and Saturday, and during City Council event days, and that will be with an attendant present to support cleanliness and supervision of the toilets. The estimated cost for the temporary reopening is in the region of £2,300 per month, and this would be funded this year through identified underspends that the council is currently carrying, and then but it would need to be budgeted going forwards for 26-27 onwards. We then move on to the medium-term financial recommendations, and that's to provide a lasting and more effective solution. The working group is recommending the full refurbishment of the underground toilets, which includes controlled entry doors on the male and female sides, with a charge fee of 50 pence per usage, consistent with other city centre facilities. We would look to improve CCTV at entry points to discourage crime and support enforcement, and high durability materials for longevity and reduced maintenance would be used. Improved accessibility and more efficient cleaning design would be incorporated through a small above ground extension to the existing accessible toilets by adding 2 cubicles, enabling all nighttime use to take place above ground and improving visibility and safety. This combined solution preserves the high capacity of the current facility, minimises heritage impact, and meets recommended toilet provision for major city centre events, which I know, again, Matt and his team are very, very keen to ensure that we do. Alternative options, so including solely above ground builds, full underground redesign to unisex cubicles and adding a changing places facility, were examined and discounted due to space restrictions, loss of capacity, cost and heritage considerations. A changing places provision is recommended instead to be explored as part of any future redevelopment of the central car park facilities when they are transferred back over to the City Council from Wiltshire Council. In terms of finances, indicative capital estimates, and I really must emphasise that these are estimates. We haven't been out and fully designed this. We haven't had a contractor look at this. We've been working with an architect to draw up some drawings, and he's given us some indicative costs. For the underground refurbishment, we're talking in the region of £250,000. And for the above ground extension, we're talking in the region of £50,000, bringing us a total of an approximate £300,000 outlay. The funding approaches that the working group think that should be considered include the Community Infrastructure Levy, CIL, and the use of council reserves, and if required, looking at a Public Works Loan Board borrowing. That's something that our RFO would have to assist with and advise about whether that would be doable. Including the ongoing revenue costs, the daily cleaning for a 7-day operation, we've had one quote from our existing contractor, and that was in the region of £72,000 per year. Really important, again, just to clarify that this figure is from a single contractor. It does appear to be quite high. The recommendation for that would be further procurement and benchmarking would be carried out to secure some more competitive pricing before any final commitment is made. In terms of consultation and stakeholder engagement, recent budget consultation has identified public toilets as the #1 priority for the public. 62% of respondents came back saying that public toilets in Salisbury were their #1 thing. We had an engagement session with local businesses in hospitality venues as well, and their feedback has been part of the way this has been considered. However, as well as the stakeholder engagement we've already done, the working group is recommending that we do a final engagement on this proposal. So the recommendations to council for council to consider tonight is to approve the short-term reopening proposals, to support the medium-term refurbishment and above-ground extension, authorise officers to proceed with detailed design, full costing and business case development, and to continue stakeholder engagement and ensure communications remain clear and transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you. Learn more, do better. We learned that we had a little bit more money, so we've looked at it, so we're going to do better. The desire to have better toilet facilities was a driver for me in taking part in the cross-party working group. We quickly realised as a group and following consultation with the local businesses that an above ground new build would not have been popular nor had the capacity that the underground ones have. So compromises were made and we re-evaluated the issue. Understanding the need for more above ground toilets was still a priority for me and my group. Giving more accessible toilets to those with mobility and health issues. One other consideration which came to mind to me, or through discussion in the group, was single parents, single dads with young children, girls and boys. You wouldn't want them taking their children down to a male toilet, would you? So having an above ground toilet would be better. So the extension on the disabled toilet, the fact that it would have one which would be DDA compliant again, but it would be big enough for a dad with 3 toddlers or children to go in as one, pay one fee, deal with the children, not seen by anybody else, so it would be safer. The fact that the extension to the disabled toilet will then become the night toilet, which actually helps the nighttime economy. It will help make everything safer. The street pastors would be happy, Safer Supportive Salisbury. They would all support that initiative. And I think it is now in 2025, we need more above ground toilets. But obviously for the need for major events, the underground one is what meets the need. So it's making sure that that can be modernised. So I would urge everybody to support this motion as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Riddle.
I wouldn't disagree with any of what Councillor Corbyn has said. I do have 2 points I want to make, though. First is that I think, as Mark has acknowledged, £72,000 for cleaning is an awful lot, and I can't help thinking that when I was growing up, certainly, public lavatories were had an attendant who would clean them during the day as they were used. You know, it was just a lady with a mop and bucket, if you like. And I don't understand why we can't employ someone rather than having a contractor who would probably be a lot cheaper than that and could attend the toilets underground and also keep them clean on a sort of, you know, not just sort of once a day, but on an ongoing basis, as we used to do in previous times. The other thing that I have a concern about is the question already coming up of SIL money being used to fund this. We have formed a SIL working group today, this afternoon, of which I'm going to be the chairperson. I would like to see SIL money not allocated to any particular project until we've had a proper discussion amongst that group and then reported back to council about prioritisation, how much of that money will be used for within the wards and how much will be used for central facilities. I think we need to take these things one at a time. And if we're going to start saying that we're going to rebuild the toilets through SIL, that's it. That's everything gone.
Thank you, Councillor Riddle. We're noting these points as we go along because it's quite significant.
And if it's okay, if I just come back as well, if councillors want to explore whether it's just for the marketplace toilets or indeed the contract we have with our cleaning contractor for all of our facilities expires, I think it's June of 2027. If the council would like us to start looking at, you know, bringing that service in-house as we have done with other things, either in its entirety or, you know, for certain aspects, then of course we can do that. But that's something that would need to be a direction of the council and to give us a point in the right direction on that one.
Thank you. Councillor Last.
I understood that we were not able to use this facility because we were well overdrawn on this account. Maybe that has changed since I last heard that said. I must also agree with Councillor, sorry, Annie.
Me.
Regarding the SIL money. because I represent Harnham East, and the facilities in Harnham East, in fact, Harnham generally, are very poor. And that is where most of the building at present is being undertaken. The third point really is if we bring all these cleaning contracts in-house, 72,000 pays 3 people, roughly, full-time employees. And they wouldn't necessarily be employed just cleaning toilets. They will be available for other activities as well. I don't like the idea of contracting out. As soon as you're contracting out, you're paying a profit to somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Soddards.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo sort of one thing already been said, which is the cross-party working, I think, worked very well. And we, I think, got into areas that we would not have got to had this just been taken through a committee. First point. I think the second point is when it comes to how we fund it. I think what was in the paper is there are options, not it needs to be all these 3 or it's definitely going to be one or the other. It's up to parties to decide ultimately what they put in the budget and how they best approach that going forward into next year. Some parties may wish to say, well, actually we're going to fund it through the budget allocation and therefore the precept. Some parties might say we want to emphasise it through the Public Works Loan Board. I think we are in credit now. Or indeed, the SIL working group will decide yes or no as to whether to fund this. So that option is open. That was just really saying that there are 3 channels of opportunity in the future. I think we all agreed that the 72k in terms of the cleaning is probably a high estimate. I know it's in the paper like that because we couldn't change it at short notice. But the feeling is it should be a lot lower than that, given after refurbishment, then it'd be a lot easier to clean than pre-refurbishment. I think, yeah, those are the points I'd like to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember the meeting in January when it was going to be 56,000 a year to keep the toilet open, and it seems to have now gone up to 72,000, and it was unaffordable then, but it seems to be affordable now. I just find it baffling, to be honest, that it's taken, it will have taken a year of the toilets being closed to come out with the conclusion that we should open them again. I mean, there's very few issues that a parish council like ours can have that will have real cut through to people on the street. And as we've seen, 62% of people say it's the number 1 concern relating to Salisbury Council. And there are a lot of things that we do, and to not have prioritised this, to have taken a year of these toilets being closed is just, I just find it insulting to taxpayers in Salisbury. We have the 2nd highest precept in the whole country, and we're not having basic services open. I support this because I want to get them open as soon as possible, but I just think it's shameful that it's taken this long.
Thank you. Councillor Victoria Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. Just firstly to commend the working group on their good workings together. I've heard over the past few weeks how well you've all been doing, so thank you for this. I do support your paper because you've clearly put the work in. Just a quick question to Mark, really. Something that I'm aware of that we talked about a lot is that the underground toilets were leaking. In the big refurbishment, is that something that's going to be stopped overall, or is it a temporary fix that we can be doing? And also, does the working group continue now? Now you brought this to us, it's continuing to work this up.
Yes. So in answer to your first question, the proposed refurbishment would take care of all of the issues relating to leaks, any issues down below ground. And in answer to your second question, yes, the working group still has a remit in terms of, I think, bringing back to full council in March, or by March at the latest, a fully developed business plan and costed, fully costed of how it's going to be taken forward. So this meeting is just about is council in agreement with the recommendations that they have been proposed. Sorry, one other thing that Matt reminded me as well, the above ground facility will be subject to planning because obviously it's in of its location, whereas the underground refurbishment would not require any planning and could be done if budget is made available relatively quickly. So just to bear those things in mind as well. Thank you.
Councillor Sample.
Chair, I first stood here in this room in 1990, and I stood then, and I'll stand for the rest of my life if I'm able to. I've never been in the criminal bar, although I was probably the last person to sit as an adult judicial holder where you're sitting, Chair, when the court closed about 15 years ago. Little bit of history as far as toilets are concerned, which is that they first started to become part of public life in England in 1847.
Do you think we could keep to the issue, please? The history is very interesting, but we need to get through the debate. Thank you, Councillor Sample.
At that point, Mr. Chairman, this building was only 17 years old, which is the point. So we've been in the business of running toilets in Wiltshire longer, it would seem, than we have in terms of many of the other services which we provide. Now, on the question of cost, for me, part of the problem at Salisbury has been that the condition of the toilets has been so dreadful. The experience which particularly women using the toilets late during the evening and through the night in the last couple of months before they were closed was appalling. They were unsafe. There was a very strong feeling that they were unclean, and it was that was one of the key reasons why we came to close them. And we need to reflect on that failure. In my opinion, £72,000 is a lot of public money. But what is more important is that whatever we do, is that they should be clean to the highest possible standards. That we never get to the point where we have the scale of public concern and complaints about the condition of those toilets. So I don't really mind whether that's provided by a private company or whether that's provided by our own in-house staff. The key thing is not the cost, it is the quality, and that it be maintained so that, as I said, they are something to be proud of and something where particularly women feel safe to use at night. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers.
Well, I can't let the nostalgia go, Chairman, just very briefly. These are newcomers, really. I sat here in November 1988. The Potax riots were outside. And one thing I remember is these damn seats are as damn uncomfortable now as they ever were. Anyway, let's get back to toilets.
It might make the meeting shorter, though.
Yeah. I'm happy with the way forward. There's obviously real pressure from the public to get these toilets opened again. The one thing that I'm really want reassurance about, we're going to spend an awful lot of money. I want to reassurance about that pump. I'd hate to spend 250,000 and then the pump breaks down again and the toilets are inaccessible waiting for a contractor to come and mend it. I just need reassurance that we've got a spare pump, we've got somebody who can fix it, we're not waiting for it to come from far corners of the earth. Because if we get in that position, we'll all need to walk out and resign if we let that happen.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
First, I just wanted to echo what everybody said about how successful I think the process is. And we all moaned when Councillor Brian suggested we have a working group, thought this would never get done. But now I realise it would never have been done had we not done that, because you just get, no matter what party people are from, you put people around a table with a solution and they will solve it together, because that's what we're here for. I'd like to say that. And the second thing I want to say is that I think the proposals are the right ones, and we did carefully look at all the other options. And I would urge people to support the motion and separate what it's going to cost and who's going to pay and how till afterwards, because that will be dealt with, I'm sure, and there'll be lots of decisions. But in principle, the motion is these are the right options and we should pursue it. And I would urge not wasting any more time. And finally, I'd like to answer Councillor Rimmer on his help him with his bafflement. And I was baffled too, because I'm a newcomer. I'm only 6 months into being a councillor, but I'd wondered why, but having had the privilege to sit and look at all the facts, we're in a very different place now that we were 6 months or a year ago financially as a council. So I hope Councillor Rimmer can overcome his bafflement. And that's all I want to say about that.
Thank you. And I completely agree that the brief of the task group was to determine a course of action. The detail is to be discussed later. Thank you. Councillor Hocking. Thank you. Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. I will not echo the many good words about the success of this working group any more than just to say it has been a wonderful success, and I am thankful that it is the solution that we ended up coming to with this particular issue, and I'm really glad to see this report, and I'll be really happy to support it. I'm very happy, unless anyone in the working group indeed has a burning urge to, I will be very happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. We still have a couple of people that wish to speak before that proposal. Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank all the councillors for giving us the opportunity to become on the working group. This has been a very difficult one, but one thing we did find out is the public reaction and the business reaction is to get that toilet or reopen. And it is our credibility in stake as well for us to do so. And I think all the working group councillors has thoroughly looked at every single corner to find the way what we can do in order to open this. But I am surprised because that 72,000 has been coming in the very last minute. That's something that we did not see, and I think if we had seen it beforehand, it would have been something of a question mark, because we were shown a number of 30,000, which is more feasible. But I think what that 72,000 gives us is to open us a broader mind in the future, where we can employ 2 or 3 people and get it done, all the bits in one go. But overall, what I'd like to say is everybody in the business sector would want to see this toilet open, and we would like to see that. And I'd urge all the councillors, by looking at it, everybody's happy to accept this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And one final comment from Councillor Dalton.
Chair, I'm going to stand up again because it saved my back. But yeah, I can't. It always reminds me when we're talking toilets and toilet working group. Has anybody ever seen Carry On Screaming? But perhaps I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, back in when was it? July, I'm going to say, when I did stand up, sit down at that point and move that this go to a working group. I could see in the room with 7 options on the agenda, which grew to 11 options in the room, which was ridiculous. We were never, ever going to choose a decent option. We would have ended up with something, telling officers to go off and do something else, and where we would have gone home. I wouldn't say that night, because we'd probably still be here now discussing option 4 or whatever it is, and we would have chose the wrong option. That's guaranteed. You would never have got the right option in that meeting, which is why I sort of reluctantly proposed a working group. I hate the title working group, because I've sat in this council when we've had working groups which were held under a previous administration, where the public were not allowed to sit in on. That was outrageous then. This working group is totally different, and I completely applaud. I was hoping for a few more members to stand up and speak, but I completely applaud the way that it was run and the way that it's come to the decisions or the conclusions, asking us to accept those proposals going forward. And they've come up, in my opinion, with the right solution. It's brilliant that it's worked well. I see on the agenda later on, sorry, I forget who's got one. Andrew's got one for later for the poultry cross, is it? Yeah. Yeah, let's go for that. That could be another open-ended pit if we're not careful, but fully support that for the right reason. I don't like working groups just for working groups' sake. But when you've got a potential project which could either balloon or you don't know where the hell you're going, as we didn't know where we were going in July, then you set the working group up with those terms of reference and you draw the council together to come up with a good solution, and the public and businesses as well. And in this case, it's worked well. And if we've got anything going forward, Poultry Cross, then we can do the same thing for that as well.
Thank you. And on the subject of working groups, I think you're absolutely right. This one has worked successfully because it was a very sharp focus, it was a contentious issue, and it was time constrained. They can become talk shops that go nowhere, but I think this is a good example of how to run a working group and when it's appropriate. Thank you. Councillor Charleston, did you want to, you proposed the motion, did you, that we passed? Yes. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hock. We're going to propose it and second it. In that case, we move to vote. All those in favour of the motion? I think that's pretty close to it. Unanimous. Thank you. How are we doing for time? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Item 17, Internal Auditors Report.
Thank you, Chair. This internal audit report is the latest from our independent internal auditor. Just remind all councillors that the internal auditor is a statutory requirement that the council needs to have. We appoint an independent internal auditor and they hold all officers to account, including the RFO, myself. This is the report that follows his visit in September. I'd also like to add that this is coming to the Finance Committee later this month as well. So if you don't wish to spend lots and lots of time tonight talking about this particular internal audit report, it will be coming to the Finance Committee. You probably will have more time to go into more detail. It's entirely up to you. I'm happy to take any questions this evening. I would draw your attention to paragraph 3.2. This is the sort of headline summary from the internal auditor. I'll just read that out. It's clear the council takes governance, policies and procedures seriously, and I am pleased to report that overall the systems and procedures you have in place are fit for purpose. And whilst my report may contain recommendations to change, these are not indicative of any significant findings, but rather are pointers to improving upon an already well-ordered system. It is therefore our opinion that the systems and procedures at Salisbury City Council are a model of good practice. But rather than get complacent with that, the internal auditor has still produced lots of findings where we can improve further. And the actual internal audit report in full is appended to the report. And if you're interested, if you go to the last page, it's got a table setting out all of the findings. So these are the points where the internal auditor wasn't 100% satisfied and is recommending improvements. And it's this area that I can either respond to questions this evening in detail, or probably more useful for you time-wise is that the Finance Committee can look at my and other officers' responses to each of those findings and decide whether or not our recommended course of action fully discharges those recommendations or not. Returning to the recommendations, because it's coming to Finance Committee, I'm suggesting if you could indicate to myself if you're content that in future, as long as internal audit reports, every single internal audit report is communicated, emailed to every one of the 24 councillors of the council, would it be okay if we brought the detail to Finance Committees in future to free up some full council time? However, if you want to, we can bring them the full internal audit report as we have this evening to full council and get 2 bites at it, one here and one at Finance Committee. It's entirely up to you how you want to make best use of your full council time. But I assure you that all councillors would still get copies of every internal audit report as required by financial regulations. So the one recommendation is to note the report. Happy to take any questions on the detail. The second recommendation is if you could indicate whether you're happy to have emailed reports or whether you still wish the full reports to come to full council.
Councillor Corbyn.
I was going to say that if if the devil's in the detail and we sign this off today, are we just signing it off as noted rather than a done job? Because otherwise, if it's not been discussed and thoroughly pulled apart by the committee, it's back to front, isn't it?
So as it says in the report, I would ask either full council to send any observations to Finance Committee to look at in more detail, or individual councillors can just lob any questions, any points of concern you've got at the Finance Committee. So no, we can go through it in detail this evening, but if you note it tonight, that's not the end of the process. As individuals and a collective, you can still send observations and comments to the Finance Committee, and I can answer those questions in more detail at that meeting.
Happy with that. Thank you.
Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Chairman. I think if we have a finance committee, I think it should go to them as saves full council meeting, because over the last 12 years, we've gone through the same process and everybody said yes. So I think it should go to the finance committee and just save our time in full council and just keep it brief.
Thank you. And Councillor Victoria Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Corbyn. It just feels a little bit backwards right now. So absolutely, the details and questions need to go to finance. May I suggest going forward that it still comes to full council, but as a recommendation from finance, they have been through everything and that they're comfortable with it, and we do note it, because that way it's in the paper, it's in the pack, and that feels better than an email that might get missed.
Councillor Sam Charleston.
I hate to disagree, but I agree with Attical, to be honest. Send it to finance, I think. Make us work for our allowances. Yeah, happy to note this, happy to send it to finance for more detail.
Thank you. And last of all, Councillor Last. Thank you. Councillor Sample.
Chair, I'm delighted with the information which we've just received from the auditor indirectly through our officer. Excellent news. Excellent work on the part of all of the officers, of course, and on the part of the councillors who've played a big part in making this situation happen. It is a picture of financial competence. And I would like to remind you of the words of the former leader of Wiltshire Council, who referred to Salisbury City Council only 2 years ago as a financial basket case. A financial basket case is exactly what the Liberal Democrats have inherited at Wiltshire. And in contrast, here at Salisbury City Council, we have an auditor's report which is nothing short of golden. Wonderful, outstanding, to use an old phrase, outstanding.
Thank you. And I'm sure everyone would echo what we said about our finance officer. Thank you very much, Steve. Andrew Sutherland.
I think it's definitely an improving situation. I think Councillor Sample has gone slightly over the top there in his lauding of how things have changed. I think what we have also seen last year is a significant saving on the underspend. At the moment, we are not quite projecting that. So I think there is more progress to be made on how we manage our resources and finances going forward, because I do think there are opportunities still to improve in the future.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for Steve about his interim report? I'm going to suggest now that after the next item, we take a short break, because we're approaching 8:30, or we will be after the next item. So,
Mr. Mayor, can I just confirm? I think in terms of item 5.2, there is therefore a proposal from Councillor V. Charleston, which is supported by Councillor S. Charleston, that says actually we would like this report to go to the Finance Committee and for any future recommendations to come to full council for noting, etc. So that was my understanding of what is being proposed for 5.2, and that full council acknowledges 5.1 and will action any such things that councillors need to do to Finance Committee. I'm seeing lots of nods, Mr. Chair, so
Okay,
I think
so
that feels
we'll
right.
take a vote on that motion. All those in favour? Thank you.
Were there anyone against? No.
Couldn't see anyone without their hand up. Okay, so item 18 is the budget monitoring report.
Thank you, Chair. This is the latest budget monitoring report for the full council, takes us up to the end of September. The format is the same as usual, so I won't labour the point and go through the usual format. The appendices are where all the figures are kept. So you've got Appendix A, which has got a full listing of all the cost centres of the council, divided by departments, which pretty much match up with committees as well. Apologies for it being such small print, but at the very bottom right-hand side of Appendix A, you've got a total revenue position of £740,000 underspend. Remembering that red bracketed numbers are good, they're either underspends or income. So that's the bottom line position as at the end of September. Appendix B has got the, thank you. Appendix B has got the projects, what used to be called the capital programme, a bit of a misnomer because it's not all funded from capital, but Appendix B has got all of those projects, cost centres, whereas Appendix A was the everyday service delivery cost centres. So between Appendix A and B, you've got the entirety of the budget that you set in January. And then Appendix C are those variances between budget profile to the end of September and the actual income or expenditure at the end of September. Comparing those two gives you a variance, good or bad, and Appendix C sets out all of the variances at individual budget lines, which are over £40,000. Financial reg says over 50, but there's always the need to perhaps look at some other major ones as well. So those variances are set out in Appendix C. They start, the order that they're in, they start from the biggest bad adverse variance, £88,000 for caravan site income, down through to the underspends to end at repairs and maintenance reactive. £40,000 is a positive, sorry, a healthy variance. And there's one project variance of over £50,000, which is also on Appendix C at the bottom there, which is Rowbarrow Section 106 scheme. And explanations, officers' explanations for all of those variances are in Section 5. So happy to take any questions on the detail of those individual variances. Some of them have come before you in the past. So, for example, the irrecoverable VAT. Don't intend to go over that in detail after the questions you asked last time, but happy to if you wish to. But what you might want to do is go to Section 7 of the report, which is something that councillors have asked for in previous reports, where we're so busy looking back that we don't use this information to give you a prediction. So Section 7, particularly important as we're in budget setting mode at the moment, both councillors and officers. So this is our best estimate of what this means in terms of the year end. So it takes in paragraph 7.2, it takes that £740,000 underspend that you saw in Appendix A. It then adjusts for a number of accounting adjustments that contribute to that £740,000. That is unrealistically optimistic because there's a couple of big accounting reversal accruals that are in there. So, for example, if you quickly turn to Appendix C, you'll see that one of the big round numbers is dilapidations, £150,000, healthy looking variance. That's purely because we accounted for our estimate of what dilapidations liability we had at the end of last year. That cost went through last year's books. Under accounting principles, you have to reverse that the next year to make sure you don't double count it. That reversal is what you see there. It's an accounting adjustment. It will only get wiped out when we get billed for that work. And the great news is that that work is not going to be needed. There is no liability. Most of this year, we believe there could have been a liability while there were legal disputes between ourselves and the owner. Now that has been resolved fully without any liability arising on the council for the major unit at the old depot. So that's great news, but it means we're left with a big variance that will only get adjusted out at the end of this year as part of the year-end accounts. So that's a specific example, but it demonstrates that some of these numbers are misleading. So in 7.2, we're saying the 740k with those adjustments in is too rosy. So we think a closer approximation of the year end could be £500,000. Even that, we believe there are still some budget profiling inconsistencies that officers are addressing. We do realise that we've been bringing to you a number of variances in previous reports, and the explanation we've given you is that perhaps the budget profiling is wrong and we need to get smarter at that. But usually you have to have 2 or 3 years under your belt before you can accurately predict what the profile is going to be, and we're still learning. So apologies that budget profiles are still a contributory factor to some of the variances. So again, that's why we further moderated the £500,000 predicted underspend by half to 250k, and that's how we end paragraph 7.3. That is fairly safe to assume and to predict for the end of this year. It's still fairly prudent, as we were last year. And ordinarily, that would be the end of the report, and that would be really good news for you to build into your proposed budgets for later on for debate in January. However, as briefly mentioned in the last full council meeting, and as I'll go into great more detail in Finance Committee, as part of our work in addressing some of the VAT legacy issues that we detected last year and we put right in terms of the crematorium, we've now employed a VAT expert from a local accountancy firm. That person's gone through the books in great detail and has confirmed that the crematorium isn't the only area where we weren't compliant with VAT rules correctly. So car parking income hasn't been properly VAT accounted for, and any of our land rental and room rental services. We've also overclaimed VAT on our expenditure more than we should have done. So with that VAT expert, I'm going through and quantifying in order to do another voluntary disclosure to HMRC. This is not great news, so I do apologise. We're certainly not perfect in the finance team or across the council, but we are addressing a number of legacy issues to make sure that we are lawful and we bring ourselves up to date. We declare this to HMRC. We show that we're being honest and we are paying back any VAT that we've overclaimed. And more importantly, we introduce the preventative controls and procedures to stop this happening again. So we will be accounting for VAT correctly from this point. But to get to the end of this year, we'll need to fully account for all of the overclaims in the past. So as I say, I'll be bringing that report in more detail to Finance Committee. But in the meantime, I'm suggesting that the predicted adjusted £250,000 underspend for the end of this year is probably going to be needed in terms of settling our HMRC liability. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Do we have any questions for Steve? Council last.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton.
Time to stand up again, Chair. Thank you. My train of thought. Steve, thank you for the, what I can only describe as finance and local government isn't my expertise. I'd rather deal with housing and highways as the worst case scenario than have to go through in detail onto any finance. And it's refreshing, as I've said before, to hear you be open, honest to members and everybody else in the room, and I appreciate that very much. Now, what you just said doesn't cause me alarm, but I guess this has been going on for years. This isn't something that's just suddenly been happening in the last 6 months, that suddenly it's this administration's fault that you're uncovering what you're uncovering. So I'm just hoping all members of the council can get behind that and get this issue resolved as soon as possible. The only slight issue I've got, if you could bring up the Rowbarrow section 106, having been involved with that for the past 25 years plus, when Rowbarrow was first constructed back in the late 90s. Now, I know for a fact, originally there was £308,000 that came forward for section 106 for Rowbarrow. And that £100,000, some members behind me can either back me up or correct me or perhaps kick me down or something, but £100,000 of that 308 went into the to the bunker at off of Old Blandford Road. So that obviously brought that figure down to 208,000. And obviously that's been sat there for many, many years. And I would assume accruing interest. However, I see the reverse. It seems to be paying interest, and that's gone down from what I was aware of, 208 to £171,065. And I just wonder why there's discrepancy on that, having been involved with it for many, many years and knowing what those figures were.
Steve, are you able to comment on that?
Yeah, but not very satisfactorily. So the information that was left to me on file, we've gone through all of that and we've tried to quantify all of the Section 106 receipts that we've got evidence for. And what you see in front of you is what we've got. So I know several councillors mentioned the bunker as a potential use of some of the row barrow money, and we found no evidence of that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, I'm just saying the audit trail is fairly cold over that, so we can't even quantify that aspect of it. In terms of the interest, interest accrues in the Section 106 agreement if the agreement includes an interest clause, which we've seen in other contracts. We have every other agreements has got that. So that's where there's a delay between the Section 106 amounts being calculated and years go by until the receipt is received by the council. Quite often there's an interest calculation in that. However, from the moment we get the money, interest doesn't accrue to individual receipts. That's not the way that it's operated in the past. It's something that we can look at in going forwards, but that's another reason why those amounts of money haven't increased in value. But as I say, at the moment, I don't think we can reconcile what you've stated in terms of the total row barrow money with what we're seeing on file, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very briefly. Sorry, I think I meant interest. The council's obviously got this funding in a bank account somewhere. So unless it's no interest.
I can confirm that we use all of the spare funds that the council's got in order to maximise the treasury management return we got on those amounts of money. Yes.
Okay. And just sorry, hearing Ricky, I think behind me, that the bunker spend may well have happened under Wiltshire Council's watch before it came to the city. Hence, probably why you can't find anything. But I do know those figures were 308 and 208.
Okay, thank you. Asa, you wanted to comment
just
on this?
on treasury management, it's one of my pet projects. The RFO would never be so bold as to give himself credit, but there is a very different and proactive approach in terms of the interest and the earnings, which our saved money earns for us. And we have seen that through significant increases in the targets around treasury management over the course of the past 18 months of when we have had a new RFO in post. So our money is working harder for us now than, forgive me, it probably did for a number of years. And that's down to Steve Bishop.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for Steve about his report? In which case, can I ask everyone to return here at 8:40? Gives you slightly longer than 10 minutes to have a break and come back. Thank you.
Chairs call for a break.
Sorry, is there a will to continue to the end of the agenda without a break? Is that what you're saying? Can I have a quick show of hands on whether we'd like to continue? Some have left. I beg your pardon. Sorry. I just looked at the agenda and thought it's going to take a while yet. So.
How dare you be considerate, Chair?
Meeting to resume in 3 minutes. Is that working? Is that working? Did you hear that? Meeting to resume in 3 minutes. Doesn't sound very loud, does it?
Testing, testing. Well, you can use mine.
Mine's not working, is it? 1 2 1 2. Is that working now? I'll do a microphone test before I start. If that's not working, then.
Hang on. I signed the requisite form. Actually, that is a gift, so there will need to be Oh, so they're in cahoots, are they? I don't think we're all back. All right. No, I'm okay. Thanks for the offer.
There's a few gaps.
There are. There's still 2 minutes of Please tell me there's not. Please tell me there's not. 1 minute. 1 minute.
He's arrived. Attical's not here either. I'm going to start the meeting at 8:40 anyway.
Right, we got cybersecurity.
On the button.
Can I just make a quick request of Matt?
Oh, has he not done his job?
It's not far enough for you, is it? Thank you all for returning as promptly as requested. And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is cybersecurity, IT and systems update.
Thank you. So this report provides an update on cybersecurity measures and IT system improvements that we've carried out in recent years, highlighting actions taken, cost savings achieved and future plans. So this all began with a cybersecurity improvements, all began with a penetration test and audit in 2023. This revealed vulnerabilities and outdated hardware, weak access controls and poor password practices. So initially, we'd recently employed an in-house IT support officer. They carried out some initial things that we could do in-house. However, last year, as part of budget setting, there was a bid for £50,000 to then carry out some additional works. So this year, we've taken actions using those funds. So they include two-factor authentication, that's password management, physical security upgrades, replacement of outdated network switches, phishing awareness training, endpoint security, and Windows 11 upgrades. In addition to the cybersecurity improvements made this year, we've also made some wider IT projects have started underway, and we've got plans for the future with those as well. And what we've done so far is have a new phone system, a new broadband services. They've recently been deployed and they've improved performance and also are due to make savings of £45,000 over the lifetime of the contract. We've made a transition to Microsoft Intune, which helps us manage our mobile phone devices. we've got the introduction of Printex, which is a cloud-based printing solution, which has reduced the costs of printing and also improved confidentiality. So with those changes that we've made and contract changes as well, we're estimated to make savings over the next few years with those contracts of about £75,000. So that doesn't stop there. We've got plans for the future. So we've got some plans for the next couple of financial years. Currently, we use a system called EDMS. It was our electronic documents management system, which we previously used for our document storage. And we've moved the documents element of that system over to SharePoint now. However, we do still have some servers that use it. So we plan to try and move away from those servers and move our services to cloud-based systems. And we hope by doing that, with our internet connection costs with our contract from next year, we'll be able to reduce by about £15,000. We will have some costs that will remain for a while in regards to EDMS, because we will have to maintain that as it supports our finance system. Then in 2027-28, we then want to look at the finance system further. I know Steve discussed it with you before about how we have a very lengthy system at the moment. We have EDMS that we create purchase orders on, and then we have Exchequer that we process all the finance on, and the two systems just don't work together at the moment. So we look to replace it with a new, modern, integrated financial package, and this will bring the end to the use of EDMS, and with that, we hope then further savings going forward. So this report is to note this evening, but I did just want to make a point of just saying thank you to our IT support officer, Jeremy Cotton, and also the senior corporate officer, Andy Hunn, who have done the lion's share of the work on this to make savings and improve our systems for the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine. And can you pass on to Jeremy my thanks for his support in untangling the mess I seem to manage to make on my phone with the authenticator. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd echo that part to pass on the congratulations to Jeremy, or the thanks to Jeremy for this, for the excellent work. In fact, the work, really excellent work from the whole team. I think it's quite fun, isn't it? That a little later in the agenda we have a bit about the poultry cross, and I think that the two things, whilst they couldn't be more different, actually share the same DNA in the sense that proactive maintenance, working hard to prevent issues from becoming issues before they become issues, is always money well spent. We've done that for the poultry cross. Not we specifically, if anyone had done it for the poultry cross, we would now have to be spending lots of money on it in the future. But fantastic work. I don't have to declare, I think, an interest, because I worked at the time for the company that did the penetration testing. I don't work for them anymore. But in hearing about it sort of from that side as well, it was quite a interesting conversation around the vulnerabilities that we faced here. So really, really pleased to see that we are taking proactive action to close these loops, to make it safer, make it more secure. The fact that there are efficiency savings as a result of this is sort of the cherry on top. So many congratulations to the whole team, and thanks to the whole team for all the hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bayliss.
Thank you. As many of you know, this is my area as well. I'd like to commend officers on this report, particularly Jeremy. Very comprehensive, following best practice. I mean, I couldn't really see much that he'd missed. I'd like to see maybe self-service password reset included in systems, moving resources and services to the cloud. Also gives us business continuity and disaster recovery services, and removes our reliance on hardware as it ages and needs constant patching, which is carried out by Microsoft on their Azure platform. So excellent report, great work. I know there are plans to shift even more to the cloud. Look forward to seeing what happens, basically.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, thank you, Janine. Okay, item 20, permission to spend.
Hello again. So just in terms of the way that the council is operating now around procurement, again, it's just a reminder to councillors that we are working with Hampshire County Council to ensure that we are compliant, we are legal, that we are doing things efficiently and properly. And as part of that, we're looking to address, again, a bit like Steve was saying, addressing some of the financial elements which have cropped up over the years. We're now looking to put our house in order in terms of procurement. And this is one of those things where we have a number of ad hoc arrangements with architects, with structural engineers, with QSs, and a number of other services. And what this request, this paper is requesting, is for officers to work with Hampshire County Council to secure a all-encompassing professional service or organisation that can provide all of those professional services to us in one hit. In doing that, we're hoping again to obviously save money and provide value for money, sorry, as well as making sure that we are following all of those procurement rules and regulations, which are of course really important going forward. We have already done some supplier market engagement. And there are a number of companies within our geographical region that would be interested in working with us. The figures that I put here, and it's £400,000 over 5 years sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But the important thing to note is this is not about us spending £400,000 or the council spending £400,000. It is giving permission to spend up to that amount. Under procurement rules, if we put a lower amount, it means that we then get to the end of that or get to that amount, and we would then have to retender again. So by having a higher threshold, it allows officers more scope to work over those 5 years without having to go through lengthy, costly, timely procurement pieces. So the reason, as I said, for this is about us securing professional services and structural engineers. Well, we've had to use those for the poultry cross and for quite a few walls across the city. Wyndham Park Wall's been one of them. We've QSs to make sure that any contractors we've got are quoting us in the right way. And also for architects, obviously, whenever we're doing things, again, we've been working with an architect recently for the toilets working group. So we do engage with these services on a regular basis. We've always got somebody on the go that we're working with on a particular project. We would like to rationalise that and bring it to one contract. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark on that item? Councillor Saddards.
Yeah, hi. Thanks very much. Thanks for the paper. I'd just be interested to know how much we actually have spent on professional services over the last year, and also, do you have a prediction as to, what kind of percentage savings this more efficient contract might give us?
So at this stage, I can't offer any because we haven't engaged. We've done some soft market engagement just to see whether there are any companies out there that can provide this for us. But we haven't tested the market in terms of costs and things at this stage. That's why I'm here to ask for that permission to engage in that piece, and then we can get the specification about it, or the detailed specification about what we're after for. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
The first question was how much do we spend on professional services of this kind in the last year?
Yeah, so it varies from year to year, and depending on the projects that we've got going on. I haven't got the details in front of me, but my estimate would be somewhere between 50 and 100,000 over the last year. Yes, as an estimate. I haven't got the details here. I'd have to go back and have a look.
Yeah.
Chair, if I may, this is a drawdown contract, so it's not that we're wanting to invoice for £400,000 or indeed 80,000 each year for 5 years. This would be a drawdown contract with clear rates that would enable us hopefully to make some savings, or at least give us comfort in terms of the independence of the advice that we have.
Correct. Thank you, Reece.
Councillor Victoria Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. So just to be very clear, so we're using all these services already. We're just wanting to lump it all together. This is not new money that you're asking for.
Nope.
This is just simply to go out to procure a one service that covers all the things we're doing already. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Chairman. It does seem the right way to proceed. I think my only concern is you do get architectural services and quantity surveying services that are combined. Very much now, structural services are a standalone because of the professional liability that is placed upon them. But if you can find a company that offers all three, great. I think my request would be that the leader names an individual councillor to be fully briefed along the whole process as the procurement process is right until the recommendations for award of contract. There should be a lead member involved.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, Councillor Rogers pretty much nailed what I wanted to say. Yes, I would totally endorse what he said. Thank you.
And Councillor Dalton.
Chair, I'm going to stand up again. But I agree with that. That's, I think, free professional advice, Ricky, isn't it? And having been a commercial officer myself, I know the hoops and everything else, the law, the rules around procurement and engaging with this type of work that you have to go through to get to where you want to be, if that makes sense. And I'm more interested, actually, not going back 1 year. I'm more interested in going back even further to what the ad hoc arrangements were in those days, to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you. So any further questions or comments on this item? Councillor Hocking.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. So 400,000 over 5 years, 80 grand a year, £7,000 a month. Is that what we're suggesting that we might end up?
No, no.
At maximum?
I think as Asa explained, this is a drawdown contract. So it's there.
And it gives you to the maximum, it allows you to spend that amount of money if you deem it necessary, though.
Within budget, yes.
Within budget? Sorry, perhaps I'm missing something here.
So, obviously.
Within what budget?
So we've got a planned maintenance budget. We've got repairs and maintenance budgets. So depending on the work that's required. So as I say, we go out, we look at, there's a number of walls that we've been surveying recently. I think there's St. Martin's churchyard. It's got some walls that are looking very forlorn, for want of a better phrase. We've had a structural engineer going out and looking at those. We're being much more proactive in terms of looking after our estates now. And in being proactive, it means investigating, looking at the poultry cross is another one, etc.
So this just allows you to give sign off to the value of that for whatever services that you think you would need. Is that right?
Yeah. So well, we're currently already doing this work anyway.
Yeah.
The permission here is for us to go out to find a single contractor. So we've done some soft markets testing. We think that there is a market out there that can deliver this for us, which will offer us better value for money, hopefully. And also we'll be able to put in, the KPIs, all of the things that you would want to see in a proper contract. At the moment, we've just got, historical ad hoc arrangements with local companies.
Thank you. That's clear. Thank you.
Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you. Forgive me for being a bit dumb. So 400,000 over 3 years with the option to extend. Will the extension cost more money?
No.
No. Okay, thank you.
So in procurement, you have to, the 400,000, you have to show that over the course of or the maximum value over the course of what the contract could be. And it could be 5 years.
Councillor Forster.
Thank you. I've got a point myself, but before that, just to clarify, because it's deja vu, I think we had this conversation last time we had a meeting when we were talking about procurement. The £400,000 is a limit for the contract. That means we will set our budgets through our committees and councils will approve work. They will do the work for us. At the point we hit £400,000 being spent, we'll come back in this room or the other room downstairs and we'll have to agree another procurement process. So the reason it's 400,000 is so that we buy ourselves some time. If it was 10,000, we'd be back tomorrow. I think that's right.
Correct.
We had that last time, we've had this time, we'll probably discuss it next time we have procurement. My point back on, and I think from the other procurement contract, and just want to check if we can have it in here. On the other contract, I think there's a clause, or whatever you want to call it, that whilst we have the agreement in place, we at any time as a council could choose to go with another supplier.
Yep.
Is that going to be the case in this one as well?
Yes, we can absolutely put that in there if because what we're looking for here is as much as possible a one-stop shop. However, with all of these contracts, I think it is important that the council has an option, whether that's because it wants to get further, clarifications on is it really value for money? Let's go and check somebody else, or whether it might be a specialist piece of work. So, and I think of something like the Poultry Cross here, maybe a all-encompassing organisation could do 90% of the work that we want. There may be 10% of the work where it's not really in their field. They would have to subcontract the work. Maybe it would be in our best interest to go out and procure a one-off specialist piece of work.
No, totally agree. Yeah, we can include that. I think that control is important. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to my clear understanding, although 400,000 sounds a lot, but if we were to have the similar thing previously for the last 4 years, for instance, I'm sure we had the similar thing. What was the cost?
So I don't have those figures here now, but the important thing is this is not about spending £400,000. This is about having the ability under procurement rules to spend as and when the council needs to over the course of the next 5 years. I can ask our RFO to get some figures together around what the spend has been on professional services over the last few years, if that would be helpful, and we can bring that back or put that into the minutes.
I think that would answer a lot of questions, because now let's say 400,000 sounds a lot, but if we look at the last 3 years or previous years, it's similar to 300 or 320,000, then I think it would be a peace of mind. Well, it's normal practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just add a caveat that whatever the figures that the RFO gives us, we are being much more proactive now. We have a facilities team, which we did not have, a year, 2 years ago. So we are out there looking for problems. Obviously, when you go looking for problems, you find more and more things. So just bear that in mind. So, but yes, we can 100% get the RFO to look back over that cost centre and give us some figures around that.
Asa, would you like to comment on this?
Thank you, Chair. Just to build on what Head of Environment has said, obviously, if we find more problems, it gives you as councillors more choices about what your priorities are, rather than officers will just go and attempt to fix everything. I think the other point to make has just escaped my mind, and I apologise tremendously.
Thank you, Asa. Can we just come back to the I believe there was a process of additional scrutiny that was proposed earlier in the discussion.
Yes, I think there were two things, quite right, Chair, to pick up on. The first is around going back and looking at expenditure over the past couple of years. I would be very confident that under the RFO, our current RFO's term, that we could have some confidence in that information that is there. I would put huge caveats and try to manage expectation. This was the point I was going to make around records and information before his tenure. We will obviously do our best, and I think it would be appropriate that we report that perhaps to the Environment Committee, which is due to meet in a couple of weeks' time. So happy to take that forward. I think the other suggestion, Chair, that was mentioned was around whether or not there should be a lead councillor for procurement.
Move it, Chairman. If I thought the leader might just want to name someone from his administration.
So is that a proposal? Did it come from Victoria, or was it from you?
think it came from Ricky, didn't it?
It came from Ricky.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very happy with that. As long as you're not expecting me to name someone right now, I'm very happy.
So we're looking at a designated councillor to take responsibility for oversight of procurement. Do we have a proposer for that? Is that a proposal? Proposal from Councillor Rogers.
I'll retire.
Forgive me, Chair.
Sorry.
Forgive me, Chair. I think it was Councillor Rogers, and I think it was either Councillor Sudd or Councillor Taylor that also suggested that. So happy to take either member at that point.
Okay.
And then what I'm hearing the leader saying is he would just like to reserve that right to name somebody at a later date. Yes.
Right. So can we vote on that then? That we're going to have a designated councillor? Yes. All those in favour? Yes. Thank you.
And the other recommendations, Chair?
Yeah, I'll move them.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Last. I hadn't seen you there, sir. Do wave.
The real point about this, you have no choice. If you reject it, as I understand it, then we could be liable for costs from, I presume, DNA.
I think
Councillor, I think you're talking about the exempt business.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yep. Okay, we're moving on to the other recommendations. Asa, could you?
Who's proposing? I would say Foster and then Corbyn. All those in favour? Any opposed or abstaining? No. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Right. Moving on to the next item, which is community toilet scheme. Submitted by Councillor Bayliss and Councillor Corbyn. Who's going to? Councillor Bayliss.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, a bit of a preamble to this. At the preliminary meeting of the Toilets Working Group, it was unanimous that a community toilet scheme should not be included as one of the main options for the Market Square toilets, but viewed as a possible complementary one. However, the feeling was this could still be a valued addition to the city's toilet provision. Schemes like these have been run successfully for many years in nearby towns. Poole and Frome spring to mind as examples. They provide a financial incentive to city enterprises like pubs and coffee shops to offer access to their facilities for residents and visitors to our city. This is why we're keen to engage with both Salisbury Bid and the Chamber of Commerce. It has the potential to generate additional trade and provide another way that we can work with local businesses. One of the biggest challenges for traders is getting people through the door. I know this as having worked for a small grocer's chain called T. Stockwell & Co. You may be familiar with them. Tesco. One of the biggest, as I said, one of the biggest challenges for traders is getting people through the door. Once they're inside, they like to spend. People also tend to be habitual in their behaviour, so will be likely to return somewhere where they've been before. With the working group's recommendation to open the underground loos and extend the above ground disabled facilities, I believe this leaves a gap in provision for those who haven't got a radar key and are not confident with steps. Plus, as has been previously mentioned, parents with small children and buggies. Displaying a clear scheme poster in the participating businesses' windows will also help those who suffer with social anxiety. This is a joint motion with Councillor Corbyn, who I'd like to thank for coming up with the first draft of this. And I'd like to propose this motion.
Councillor Corbyn, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I would. Following on from the working group meeting with the businesses, we put this forward to them and there was opposition to it and they said that the money wasn't going to be enough. unfortunately, I think everybody has to recognise that we are trying to implement something that will be a positive as an interim measure to the wider problem of permanent toilets. So I would urge everybody to get behind this and support it so that it can be started. The CEO can tell us exactly when it would be able to be started. Maybe, maybe not. Hopefully quite soon.
Yes, indeed. Apologies, councillor. I think the motion asks for me to get on and try and implement it and work with partners. I think there are, based on some initial conversations with some initial stakeholders, there are challenges around this. I'd be really reluctant to overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah. And the other thing to mention, which will be obviously of public interest, is the fact that whatever we implement with the other plan with the toilets, that it will not affect the Christmas market and all of that, because we have to bring in toilets to cover. Yeah. So unfortunately, we're not going to have a quick fix, but this will actually help with the businesses to help the residents and visitors to the city going forward until it's sorted.
Thank you. Eleanor, did you wish to comment on this at all? Thank you. Councillor Hock, did you wish to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm not too confident about this. My personal opinion, I've spoken to a lot of the businesses, although it's a nice gesture, but for the businesses, they rather see the toilet open. However, from a different point of view, what the business would be worried is the public will be willy-nilly going to the toilet and use it. And if they are being turned away, they'll say, hold on, the council is paying for this. Why are you objecting to us? So it's going to cause, in the long run, it's going to be causing a more problem with public and businesses, because the public will see, well, if you are getting paid for it, we should use the toilet. So I think there is a darker side to think about it as well. So that's my just small peace of mind.
Thank you. Can I just have clarification? Is this a scheme that is the proposal that all businesses take this on board, or is it something that businesses opt into?
They opt into.
That's my understanding of it. So it's not something that will be imposed on businesses, so they wouldn't be in that position where they're saying we don't want this to happen unless they want it to. I think that's my understanding anyway. Councillor Dalton.
It's that time of the evening again. Right, so this motion's pretty straightforward to me. It's pretty concise and to the point, 3 bullet points. It's not about suddenly opening it up and an endless pot of cash for everybody to draw into and for every business to, come into if they want to. Read it. It's instruct officers to discuss with the Chamber of Commerce and the bid to determine which businesses would be interested in taking part in the scheme, and to allocate up to assist with the pilot scheme funded from the CEO's contingency. So not a new budget. And any developments, I assume, arising from one above will be reported back to full council and strategic partners by officers. And on that, through those 3 simplistic points alone, can we move to the vote?
Okay, Councillor Forster.
I think very similar views to we've just heard, and I think a lot of the concerns that have been raised can only be answered by approving this. I feel it's silly in life to say no because you think it might be a problem. Let's actually go out and see if this works. If it does, it'll be great. If it doesn't, as has just been said, we will be told and we can make an informed decision next time rather than an uninformed one at this moment. So I'm in favour of second.
Thank you. Just two more people wish to speak and then we'll move to a vote. Councillor Rimmer.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly dubious as well about whether it's worth doing, because I feel like we need to either go all in on something like this or not do it. And I feel like putting this amount of money in is risking it just not having huge take up and it distracting from what we're trying to do of reopening the toilets. But if there's been a lot of reminiscing tonight, so people forgive me for going back to January once more. I do distinctly remember in that meeting multiple people from the administration saying that closing the toilets would be a big boost to local businesses because of people going into the toilets there. So it's worth remembering that that was their logic at the time.
Thank you. Councillor Riddle.
Chairman, I'm not going to take up any more of the meeting's time. I think Councillor Dalton's made my point.
Thank you. Right, so we have a motion proposed by Councillor Bayliss, seconded by Councillor Corrigan. Any of those, all those in favour? Okay. Against? That motion's carried. Thank you.
Apologies, can I check if there are any abstentions? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Right. Item 22, Poultry Cross. Councillor Suddards.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, yet another working group. I think we've heard quite a bit tonight about how successful the working of the toilets working group was. Certainly it felt like that as a person in the working group, and equally I felt the same during the terms of reference working group, which was a bit earlier in the year. I think Poultry Cross going forward is a complex problem. It has potential to be a huge cost and drain on the council or on the precept. There's multiple stakeholders involved, from heritage to planning to things like the civic society, the public, and I think this complex problem is ripe to have some cross-party detailed working, i.e. yet another working group. I think this will bring focus to it. It will bring help to the council staff, and hopefully it will mean that the councillors are able to drive this rather than, dare I say it, potentially architects looking for solutions that may not be accord with councillor views. So I'm putting forward that this is an excellent issue where a cross-party working group would be of benefit. Now, don't know the timescales, so it may not fulfil the urgency need. We do know that some things need to be done, but I'm not sure what yet needs to be done in terms of further stabilisation or short-term things. But I think that's precisely what the working group can delve into the detail for. Hence this motion to recommend setting up a Poultry Cross working group for the future.
Seconded,
Chair. Seconded by Councillor Hocking. A couple of people had their hands up to speak. Councillor Sam Charleston.
I was going to second it, but Sven's already done it. I'm very happy to defer. Yeah, fantastic idea. I totally agree. It's yes, the toilet working group has been clarifying. It's been great to see cross-party collaboration, as has been said many times this meeting. I will be very happy to support this. I hope we can get the civic society, perhaps the conservation area panel, and all other interested parties as involved as other businesses have been with other working groups. So yes, we'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you. Can I ask for an amendment and actually have it as a monument working group? Because not only do we have the Poultry Cross, we have the clock tower, potentially we're going to get the art centre. So actually it might be more proactive to set it up now so that it encompasses all of that.
Thank you. Councillor Dalton.
Chair, it's a pity we didn't move straight to the vote, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I'm all for this. I did stand up what seemed like an eternity ago to say this is a good idea. I don't quite like the terminology yet another working group though, because it's a working group with a valid reason, which I completely support. The same with the toilets, and I didn't realise there was one for the toilets. But yeah, fully support this. And you know, go to the vote, whether it's monuments or Poultry Cross, and then setting up a clock tower, then an art centre, then a Guildhall one perhaps in due course. But oh, the bunker, yeah, that's one for there. But yeah, just I don't care what the title is. To be honest, it's called Poultry Cross. Probably leave it at that and come up with another one should we need it. And I have to give my apologies. I'll stay for this vote, but I do have to go after that.
Thank you. Still have two names on our list. Councillor Forster.
Yeah, more procedure question, because I really do like this. This is a very brief, lovely little sentence. I'm new to this. Are we going to have to agree some terms of reference for this? Could we therefore potentially suggest that that went to the next Environment Committee meeting, so we didn't have to wait for a full council meeting, so we can get this working group set up even quicker?
Chair, if I may, just answering Councillor Forster's comment, it is only full council that can determine the terms of reference, unless full council decides, for example, to delegate that authority in this instance, for example, to myself and Councillor Suddards to come up with a terms of reference, or it can delegate it to, for example, the Environment Committee. But we must tonight have a clear pathway to a terms of reference.
It just feels the next full council meeting will be quite busy.
It will indeed. So my suggestion is to delegate authority to myself in partnership with Councillor Suddards. I think that would be quicker than waiting for the next Environment Committee, but you could decide to give it to the Environment Committee. The choice is yours, but we will. One of the 2 points I wanted to make was just around making sure that we have a plan for how to get to a terms of reference that's noted in tonight's minutes. The other point, if I may, Chair, is just to say the capacity of our corporate team. They are at capacity at the moment. They have a full work programme. We are currently running 2 additional working groups. This will be perhaps a 3rd working group, and I am concerned at the level and the capacity, the overtime that our staff are having to do at the moment. We have brought a report to a previous committee for additional capacity. That was declined. So I am concerned, and again, I use the phrase managing expectations. Yes, Chair. In terms of this, I think Councillor Corbyn has proposed an amendment to the motion, which would need a seconder, which talks about establishing a monument working group. So, there would need to be a seconder, then we would need to vote on that that proposed amendment before we could decide then to make a vote. So, if you, with your permission, Chair, it would be, is there a seconder to Councillor Corbyn's motion? Councillor Rideout was quick off the draw there. It would
No. So, sorry, I just want to come back to it.
Yes,
Felt that
indeed,
there was
Councillor.
decisions to be made on your response to my question, and does that then need to get put into an amendment that I can propose?
There would need to be a proposal, yes.
Could I propose this goes to the Environment Committee on the 8th of December then? Not yet, I can't. We've got to do that, okay.
Yeah. There is, we have had a number of conversations. Councillor Taylor is looking at me now. There is a flow chart on motions. I think Janine is also looking at me, staring at me. So yes, maybe we could put it up on here. Quite right. I think, first of all, let's go with Councillor Corbyn's now seconded motion with Councillor Rideout. Chair, you could ask for a vote on that. Yes.
Right. So the motion is to
establish a monument
group, and proposed by Councillor Corbyn and seconded
Chair.
by. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Yeah.
So procedurally, which do we vote for?
Councillor Suddards is debating whether to accept the amendment.
I, at this stage, would like to reject it. I'm not ruling it out for the future. I just think bouncing a quick change is not the right thing to do. But once we start to put the terms of reference together, if I think it's appropriate, then I slightly reserve the right to bring that forward at a later date. But at this stage, the focus really needs to be on the poultry costs, I would say.
Okay, so in which case that falls. Councillor Forster, I understand that you want to.
No, it doesn't fall. He hasn't accepted, so we now vote on it.
Yeah.
Yes, apologies. Quite right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so we're voting on the motion by Caroline Corbyn from the amendment to the motion by Caroline Corbyn. Can I see a show of hands in favour of the amendment? About the monument, yes.
This is monument, yes.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against the motion? I'm not counting, but there's quite a few.
Any abstentions?
Okay, so now we move
Penny,
on.
did you get all that? Lovely, thank you.
So now moving on to Councillor Suddards' motion, seconded by Councillor.
No, apologies, Chair.
No?
Councillor Forster has come up with a plan, which is how are we going to agree the terms of reference?
And I think actually on the comment of the rejection there, that we could consider other things. I think take this to the committee. The Environment Committee is meeting in a few weeks. I feel this sits there. It's where we've had a presentation on the poultry costs already. So I propose we adjust this or put in a comment that the terms of references will be decided by the Environment Committee.
So we've got a proposal seconded by
He's accepted it.
Councillor Suddards. So all those in favour of that motion to take the terms of reference to the Environment Committee?
I think Councillor Suddards has accepted the motion as a friendly amendment.
So we don't need to vote on it because he's accepted the amendment.
We're voting on the whole thing now.
The whole thing, right. Right, so the motion proposed by
So
Councillor
if I may, councillors, full council agree to establishing a cross-party working group to work with council staff to determine the optimum short and medium-term solutions for the poultry cross. The terms of reference of this group will be agreed by the Environment Committee at its next meeting.
All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Abstentions? That's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Item 23, Cold Harbour Lane. Councillor Taylor.
Good evening. So I feel like I'm trapped in an episode of Crossroads right now. So we probably ought to have a previously on. So if we could have the slides of that little map, please. Whoever's got the PowerPoint thing. Just as a bit of a reminder, this all kicked off over 6 months ago. A chap called Gary White, blind man, lives in Canadian Avenue. He got in touch with a number of councillors, including Councillor Rogers. So it's all his fault, and I'm looking to him to second the motion in the fullness of time.
Second it, Chair.
Chats with Gary White, chats with Kes Adey from Diggs, and chats with local people basically led to the problem being highlighted, which is if you look at the bottom bit of Cold Harbour Lane, which is the narrow bit of road between the allotments and the Scout Hut. If you go to the next slide, please. Thank you.
Chair, sorry,
There we go.
can I point of order, which is, I feel like we're coming up at 3 hours. Do we need to approve an extension to this meeting to give Chris the fullness of time?
You're right, Leader. So are members content that we move past 9:30?
So there's an agreement to continue with this item? Yes.
Thank you. Right. So continuing where we left off, that's a picture of Cold Harbour Lane. The orange line is the proposed route of a footpath. It's currently a grass verge. In the summer, it's used as a footpath. In the winter, it's a muddy mess. It's certainly not suitable for those in wheelchairs, those who are blind, kids in buggies, children going to school. Just up the road is the main pedestrian entrance to Sarum St Paul's School, and at the top of the orange line, that sort of muddy stuff is the New River Park project. So this is one of the main arterial routes in and out of the New River project. And so when encountering this, it looked like we had a lovely park, and yet a lot of people in our community would be prejudiced against, they wouldn't be able to access it easily. And so Councillor Rogers and I had a site meeting. I went on to talk it through with Mark Reed, and we brought it to the council meeting 2 months ago, if you remember. And it was discussed there. And at that meeting, Councillor Foster, amongst others, expressed concern about the detail in the estimate. And I was tasked with going out and getting a more detailed estimate. I worked with a chap called Sean Saunders, Health and Safety Facilities Supervisor, if I've got that right. Very nice chap. And we had another site meeting or two. And with Mark Reed alongside, he got the contractor to come up with a very detailed quote. I feel like I have that piece of paper. It's 3 pages, lots of detail, a number of bags of concrete and all of that stuff. If anybody's really excited by that, they can have a look at it afterwards. I was told I couldn't email it out because it is commercial in confidence, but I have it here if anybody wants to see it. And Mark Reed is going to answer questions on the topic, should we have any on the technical matter. So that's the background. It's a good community asset. A couple of months ago, reading the room, most people, I think, were in favour, apart from this challenge over the estimate. I put together a motion, which, guess what, looked like the motion from 2 months ago. However, like so much in life, the goalposts have moved. They've been moving so quickly today that I've lost focus, even with my varifocals tuned in. And in fact, comments coming in through the door at even 6:30 for moving the goalpost further. So in my original motion, I had mentioned the word budget. The word budget is clearly a hot potato right now with us looking at the budget going forward. The thinking and the advice and the instructions I've had all point me towards SIL money. And in a minute, I'm going to ask the CEO to talk through that briefly. However, the goalposts have shifted even in the last 2 or 3 hours as the SIL working group kicked off and we started talking about various draft ideas. And so I've reworded the motion in the hope of capturing the spirit of what most people seem to want. However, I may well have got it completely wrong, and I am open to offers, as they say, for amendments so that between us all we get it right. Let me just run through the wording, and then what I suggest, Chair, if it suits you, I think I'll run through the wording, and then maybe we take technical questions for Mark to answer first, and then once we're happy with the technical aspects, we discuss the money side and the funding.
Okay, proceed with the motion.
Okay, so I won't bore you with all the stuff about how long it is, but at the last full council meeting, 15th of September, the resolution was that the council supports in principle the provision of a new footpath along Cold Harbour Lane and instructs officers to obtain detailed costings and bring a report back to full council for decision on funding. A detailed quote has been obtained from the council's DNN Maintenance Limited for £32,966 and threepence. The resolution, and I said open for offers, this council approves the initiative, i.e. we like the idea of providing a footpath along Cold Harbour Lane suitable for use by those with disabilities and mobility issues and school children and infants in prams and buggies. It is agreed that provision of this footpath be assessed as an indicative project against the Community Infrastructure Levy Fund Allocation Matrix. That's not my words, but those I was advised with the current words. I urge all councillors to support this motion in the interest of residents of our city, particularly the disabled and those with mobility issues. Thank you. I'll propose that, and I'm looking for a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Podgem. Any comments or questions for Councillor Taylor? Councillor Riddle.
As the chairperson of the newly formed SIL working group, I am not happy that we have yet worked out the proper mechanism which we're going to do on a cross-party basis for spending the SIL money, and I don't wish to see that preempted. Lots of people have got lots of things they'd like to see SIL money spent on, and I would like to see the mention of SIL money removed from this motion. I can't support it.
Asa.
Just to clarify, Chair, as I've read this motion and as I understand it, the agreement by full council to support this motion doesn't commit to spend that SIL money. What it does is it commits to putting it into the SIL process, whatever the SIL process is that the working group creates. That's my understanding.
As long as that's very clear, that we don't, this is not a commitment to spend SIL money on this project at this stage.
I believe that that's what I've read, that's what I understand, and Councillor Taylor is nodding that is his understanding.
Councillor Brown.
Perhaps a way forward, because I completely agree with Councillor Riddle, and I'm surprised, while, you know, many of us supported the idea of this, we have many, many priorities in this city, and it just seems as a process period to bring it up now, you know, when we're about to do budget setting and we've got a SIL working group, there are lots and lots of decisions. So I would propose amending it to take out all references to how it's going to be funded and just say, yes, as we did last time, it's a good idea, which should go into the routine budget setting process, for which we have various parts, including SIL and various other things, but it's all part of, you know, the workings of the council, and it's not an ad hoc decision that's made now. I think that the motion should be to say it's a good idea to be explored in principle, and not say talk anything about funding. Yeah, that'd be amendment. Yeah, that would be my amendment, to take out references and simply say funding sources will be determined as part of the budget setting process of the council.
Okay, Chair, if you're okay, I'd like to circle back to the Brown and Riddle amendment. There are a number of people that have indicated to speak, if that was okay.
So who have we got?
Councillor
Dalton.
Chair, I was going to talk on the original motion, unless you want me to talk on the now amended motion. I don't know. Let me say, I'll say what I was going to say, because I was at both meetings in the past. I think probably council needs to curtail a little PowerPoint presentations for a start. We could all bring those and take up time of the agenda. We don't need to do that. We've all got projects in our ward, and I could come here every council meeting with a 25-page PowerPoint presentation, which I'm sure Annie and Andrew Suddards would probably agree with. And Andrew Suddards has got PowerPoint presentations, which are brilliant PowerPoint presentations, which the three of us have looked at. So, I mean, perhaps we could all do that. I was under the impression that the last council meeting, actually, that where we asked, asking officers to go away, that perhaps a report would come back to full council by the officers. I haven't seen that, only seen the report that Councillor Taylor seems to have had. Unless I've missed stuff in my inbox, which I don't believe that I have. So that was part of the resolution last time. I have to say, to spend, what, 33 grand at this rate of SIL money, of which we don't know how much we've got, on a footpath, which is probably seldom going to be used, I have to say. There are other solutions. Go up Old Blandford Road for a start. There's a perfectly good solution there for a marked out footpath, which residents have contacted me about over the years, which I had put in from Lywood Close at the bottom to Harmwood Road in the middle. And that is well used by all users in a wheelchair, in a buggy and walkers. And traffic keeps away from that line. It's probably well or more used, shall I say, as a rat run between Harnham Road and Coombe Road than what this road is. Sorry, I've forgotten what the name of the road is. So Cold Harbour Lane. So there would be more traffic on Old Blandford Road, which adhere to the painted lines, which probably could be done here without any TRO amendment for probably less than 500 quid, which I would support.
Councillor Bayliss.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I basically echo Councillor Dalton's feelings. When we first saw this previously, £35,000 seemed like an awful lot of money, and I was hoping on further investigation that would come down significantly, but it hasn't. I agree with Councillor Dawson's suggestion that a solution like the one in Old Bramford Road would be an option. There is also government guidance on shared streets, which could be something we should look at, which would be probably an even cheaper option because you don't need any markings on the road. I think with such a demand on SIL money and budgets in general, we should be looking at possible other solutions which may not hit us quite so hard.
Councillor Sam Charleston.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's a few of these comments feel a little cart before the horse. I have no problem with the principle of this saying, let's put it in the list of projects that we think are properly funded by SIL monies. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with this amended motion. It's not committing to spend SIL money. It's not saying there is no such thing as a better solution. It's saying this is something that we could consider as part of an output from the SIL working group. I have no problem with it. I would like to move along with it.
Councillor Johnson.
No, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Podger.
I think Sam stole my thunder. I would be happy to go along with this. We're not saying that we're going to spend the SIL money. We're just saying that it'll go into the matrix. So I would like to see the motion passed.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, sorry. So we've ended up talking about money rather than the technical aspects, apart from Councillor Dalton's inquiry and Councillor Bayliss's inquiry. Always frustrating for us councillors in these situations. So we get an issue from one of our residents. Councillor Rogers and I walk the site. I look at Councillor Rogers as somebody who knows a little bit about building stuff and footpaths and roads and the like. We then consult with our in-house expert, which is Mark Reed, and then we get in some experts to come up with a quote. There was no intention to bring a paper back. The intention from the last council meeting was to get an accurate quote, and that's what I've got. And I'm very happy to share that with anybody that wants to look at it. And I'm sure if we ask Mark now to explain it, he will be happy to. I suggest if we've got any questions about alternatives to the footpath, we throw them at Mark Reed now. He's done the site survey along with his colleagues, along with the experts. I'm open to all sorts of offers and suggestions for those councillors that have walked the turf. I apologise for my PowerPoint. I certainly should have put Cold Harbour Lane up in bigger letters. I do apologise for that. It's what I do. It gets the message across. A picture paints 1,000 words. You don't want 1,000 words from me tonight, do you? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chris. Mark, did you wish to comment on?
Chairman, a point of order, please, because in the actual report, the wording there, it does actually say instructs officers to obtain detailed costings and bring a report back to full council. To me, that's from the officers.
Right. Do we have a full report?
As explained, I've got the quote here, and I'm sure Mark Reed will talk to that quote. I would suggest you ask him that question, please.
Mark, is there anything verbally that you would like to add?
No, so apologies if councillors were expecting a paper. I didn't read it in that way, so that's why I haven't written one. I just provided the quote to Councillor Taylor. In terms of the quote, it meets the specification that Councillor Taylor wished for, which was for a tarmac path. It involved moving a light column a few yards back towards the fence line as well to open up the pathway. So it meets everything that Councillor has requested. I assume in consultation with the resident who is stated that this is something that they would like to see happen in this area. Other than that, it's very much over to councillors to obviously to decide how budget should be spent. We're just here, officers just here to provide the information.
Councillor Rogers.
Chairman, I just think Councillor Taylor has done everything that has been asked of him. From the very start, consulting people, talking about the problem. I think we're being a little bit disingenuous to his efforts that he's put in on this issue. For instance, if we hadn't have been tied to a procurement method where we have to use our existing maintenance contractor, if we had a one-off quote, this would be 20 or 30% lower. But we are where we are. I just think we need to get on it. I don't need to echo what we said before because you all agreed. This is the entrance to the new River Park project. You know, this is a well-used entrance that mums, toddlers, adults, disabled, everybody will use to get into that new park. And I think the money is another issue. It doesn't say spend the money. It says investigate it and see if it can come through that SIL project, that process. I can't support the amendment, Chairman.
Okay, two more people to contribute. Councillor Hock.
Thank you, Councillor. I echo what Councillor Rogers is saying, but what I wanted to know is if the SIL working group decide not to fund that money, what happens then? Sorry? Yeah, but it's clearly mentioned SIL. Obviously, the SIL working group will decide where the money goes. Because it's mentioned SIL, if they decide not to fund on that project, it goes to another project, what happens then?
Chair, if I can, what the motion currently says is that it should be considered by the SIL group with an unknown allocation matrix. We have to wait for the working group to come up with that criteria. We need for the working group to come up with which committee it's going to be attached to. What this motion says is when you're doing your first lot of projects with that as yet undefined group and undefined terms of reference, can you make sure that this is the first project or one of the first projects you consider? That's what the motion says at the moment. It doesn't commit to any spending. If that SIL group, attached to whichever committee it is, decides to reject anything, then that project would fall, or it would be postponed, or it would be put on a list for another date. I don't know what the process is because the working group hasn't advised me what their recommendation is and full council hasn't decided. But my guess is it would be stratified, there would be a list, and they would decide to spend whatever they could depending on that allocation.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Brown's suggestion.
So I believe Councillor...
Sorry, Councillor Foster.
No, and actually maybe fitting that it comes at the end of all of this. First, I think, disingenuous. I think Councillor Taylor deserves some credit for working through what I think wasn't a process in place. And my question to us as a council is, and maybe it's the governance committee, is can we clarify a process that a councillor, if they have something they want to do, follows, so that we don't then spend an evening debating whether the process was wrong and what the process should be. Because I think there's been a lot of discussion there rather than the footpath itself, whether it's actually good for the community. We've been almost ignoring the fact because the process isn't there, but that's because there is no process. And that's on us to put a process in place. So I think well done to Councillor Taylor for dealing with that, but let's not recreate this issue in the future. So when I want to or someone else wants to, we know what we're meant to do.
Maybe call it a flow diagram, which is what we've been
I'd love a
working
flow
towards.
diagram, yeah.
Just in response to that last point, I would say emotion is the process. This is what we're doing. This is the process. If councillors want something included in whatever, they put a motion to council. So the process is here already.
Right, I think we need to move to some kind of action here because we're going round in circles. Sorry, I think I'd like to close the discussion at this point, and we need to get something going so that we can come to a resolution to this. So the first thing we need to do is...
I believe Councillor Brown was going to put an amendment that was going to be seconded by Councillor Riddle. I'd just like either Penny to confirm what that was or Councillor Brown to reconfirm exactly what his amendment was, which I believe was in relation to any reference to SIL. Councillor Brown, can you have another
If I
run
may
up?
just add, I would say a simpler way of saying it is that the motion proposes that all sources of funding are explored through the routine processes of the council,
So
which
that
includes
would
budget
include,
setting, includes normal budget, includes SIL, includes everything, but it's not singling anything out and it's just following the normal routine. Yeah.
right, so in fact, it's the same motion with the addition of considering other sources of funding also. So it's still going to be considered under the imminent SIL matrix and other sources of funding.
So, Chair, apologies. I think that's what the original motion said. However, Councillor Taylor has changed its sound, so now that it talks about the SIL. So, forgive me. I think the process is now Councillor Taylor's asked if he wants to accept that.
I'm sorry, colleagues and friends. I mean, I've been listening to feedback, doing what I've been asked to do. I can't keep everybody happy all the time. I do apologise for those that this upsets. I would like to emphasise to Councillor Riddle and other councillors concerned about it what the CEO has kept repeating, that this is floating an idea. My hope is that this idea has some sort of semblance of approval such that it can be put into the system when the system is in place and debated within that process by those put in power to do so. So I'm not demanding anything. I'm not putting a foot in the door. I'm not trying to get ahead of anybody else. I'm not trying to steal the thunder of anybody. I'm just saying, please, could we consider this project in a bag of projects when this system gets up and running? I don't think that's a big ask.
Right. So we've got an agreement that the motion is to consider sources of funding, including being validated by the SIL matrix.
Chair, as I understand it at the moment, is that councillors are going to be asked to vote on Councillor Brown's amendment. Yep. Which is in relation to removing reference to SIL and going back to the original motion in effect. After councillors have voted on that, that will either be accepted or we will then have to go back to Councillor Taylor's substantive motion. So I suggest the first thing we need to do is vote on the original motion in effect as it was supplied before Councillor Taylor's amendment. I will put that up on screen. This is the resolution. Apologies, councillors. This is what happens. So that was the original motion. I believe, Councillor Brown, that's what you're suggesting.
That resolution in front of me says, it says from the community infrastructure level funds. That's precisely the bit we want reference taken out.
Okay, so this isn't what you'd like.
No.
For it purely to say explore all funds instead of should insufficient funds.
Yes, I think it sets a terrible precedent.
So we're really, really clear. It is the resolution that is in front of you, but please read instead of should insufficient funds be made available from SIL funds, the project will be included in the budget for 26-27. Councillor Brown's amendment now is that all funding streams should be considered. Is that correct, Councillor?
That's fine.
Excellent. Can I suggest all those in favour?
Sorry, are we now voting on
Councillor Brown's amendment. That is, yes.
Yes.
Correct. So,
Correct.
so this section, and apologies, I will run through this again for those that aren't clear. This section that I've highlighted here, Councillor Brown, is to be removed. That is to be replaced with words that say all funding sources should be considered.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Brown has said yes. Councillor Riddle, your understanding as the seconder. Brilliant. Councillors, can I ask you to vote on this amended motion? Chair, can we please vote? We have got a seconder as Councillor Riddle.
Voting on now. Ted, put your hand up. Yeah. No, it's coming out in blue. It's coming out.
Which motion?
Oh, yeah. In fact, all should come out.
So that I'm really clear, a couple of councillors may be unsure. What I have suggested and what I've understood from Councillor Brown is that the section here highlighted is to be removed.
Actually, it is, Ted is right. It's all of that resolution to remove it. Shows the council approves seeking or following the budget process to explore all sources of funding. You've still got SIL in the first sentence. That's the bit we want out. We don't want any source of funds singled out. It's not the right process.
I'm sorry, I had two people talking at the same time there.
I think in order for clarity, my proposal to the chair is that we have a short recess so that we can be explicit and have it up on screen exactly what councillors are being asked to vote on. Because there are a number of people in this room that are unclear, and therefore I would ask that we have a short recess so Councillor Brown can set out and put on screen exactly what is wanted.
All right, fine. Yeah, well, why don't you come with me? Let's just get some words.
I was going to say you were driving home. Down here again in the morning. Arm thing.
Right, so having got that, what happens to Councillor Taylor's motion?
So we are going to now vote on this singular one-liner that says council approves this project in principle. The councillors will either approve this amendment. If it approves it, that's the end of the story. If they don't approve it, we go back to councillors.
Right.
Yes.
How many times do you say the same thing?
Presented.
Different ways.
That's the original version. He's asked He has.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. This is the problem of random motions. If it was merely voted down or accepted, that would be fine. What we continue to do, or what councils continue to do, is make random motions on the spot, which leads us into this problem.
We've got to vote on a motion that was brought by the... Surely we've got to vote on Councillor... we must vote on the motion, surely, but then... Or an amendment to the motion first. So this is an amendment to the motion. So we're going to vote on the amendment to the motion, and then we go back to Councillor Taylor.
If the amendment is not approved.
If it's not approved?
Yep.
Okay. That's the process. Right. Okay. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to try and explain very clearly the process that we're going to go through now. We have an amendment from Councillor Taylor, which we are going to sorry, Councillor Brown, which we're going to vote on. And the outcome of that will determine what happens with Councillor Taylor's motion. Okay, so the motion is, as it appears on the screen, and that's, sorry, that's an amendment from Councillor Brown. Does that need to be seconded? Seconded by Councillor Riddle. Can we have a vote in favour of the amendment? All those in favour?
For those that can't see it, the amended now reads, the council approves the project in principle and will explore all sources of funding.
Okay, that's the motion that we have proposed and seconded. All those in favour of that amendment? Better count, haven't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I make it 12. 13. Abstentions? 1. Okay, so the amendment has been rejected. So now we come back to Councillor Taylor's original motion. Okay, we have a proposer and a seconder for that. All those in favour of the motion? No, for the motion.
The one on the screen.
Yeah, the motion
For the
that Chris has amended
substantive
himself.
motion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion that is behind, would it help if I read it out if people can't see? No, lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, in favour of the motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 14 in favour. Against? 3 abstentions. 1. 2. Right, therefore that motion is carried. Right. Before we move on to the exempt item where members of the public should leave, Councillor Sample has something, a point of information. This is not an agenda item. It's not for discussion. It's a point of information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for that. Very quickly, I know you as member for St Francis, and there are a number of other St Francis members. I, as a member for St Edmunds, are concerned about the proposals to remove the bridge on the A36 highway, suggestion from National Highways. I just wanted to make you aware, Mr. Chairman, that I've received a letter this morning from the leader of Wiltshire Council, which is as follows. Read the A36 footbridge at Salisbury. We are concerned to learn from Councillor Paul Sample and Councillor Alan Bayliss that National Highways have put forward an outline proposal to remove and not replace a footbridge at Wordsworth Road / Wyndham Road on the A36 at Salisbury. This is to confirm our intentions to use all of our powers as a consultee to ensure that any existing bridge is replaced on a like-for-like basis. Yours sincerely, Ian Thorne, leader of Wiltshire Council. I just wanted to make you aware of that, Mr. Chairman, because I know that there are many people who are concerned about this issue. There is an upcoming meeting which will discuss this, and I just wondered whether there was a possibility perhaps that Salisbury City Council could discuss this issue and decide what action it wishes to take. And just to inform you, Mr. Chairman, that the minister responsible in this particular case of the Department of Transport is Lillian Greenwood MP, who is the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State, and it has as her in her responsibilities National Highways.
Thank you. There is one other announcement, which has nothing to do with any of this, which I forgot to mention in my chairman announcements. Could I thank the large number of councillors that appeared for the armistice service and parade on Sunday. It was a fantastic turnout from councillors, and I think that the community of Salisbury that there would have noted that and appreciated it. Okay, we now need to ask members of the public to depart because we are onto the exempt item on our